Okay, that was part one of our return podcast. We talked for way too long on this episode, so we did split it into two parts. And part two goes over other stuff around the league, as well as that crazy infield fly rule that happened with the White Sox game and the Yankees game recently, and some what the Mets stuff. So check out part two.
So that was a big news. Harper, on the other side of someone who had a lot of injuries last year, has had a really good month. He was the NL's Player of the Month last month, and the Phillies are, with him being so hot, the Phillies are on fire as well. Yeah, so it's cool to watch. I'm not a Phillies fan by any means, but they're a fun team
easy to be
watch.
A Bryce Harper fan for sure.
Yeah,
and
I think Bryce Harper is really cool. Like Bryce Harper going out and helping some young kid in Philadelphia.
Get
a prom date.
Go get his that's right.
Like, can you imagine
Did you see she
Aaron
hugged him
Judge
first?
doing some? Yeah, she hugged him first. Yeah.
I mean, fair.
I mean, if you were in high school and Derek Jeter
shows up to my door and says, "You got to take this guy to prom," I mean, I'm absolutely
you're hugging
first.
Jeter first.
Can I take you to prom? Are you free that day? I will take you to. I love you. I love you, dear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is a good time to remind everyone that my wife assured me that she'd never leave Jeter for me. I'm sorry. I meant she would never leave Jeter for me.
Yeah.
That's exactly how she said it twice. Said the same thing twice.
I did say that. And I mean, that's pretty much true. Jeter was there before you.
Poor Cliff.
I was telling everyone in my family who'd listen that I was going to marry Derek
Jeter. Joke's on you. I make movies now.
Oh, yes. I mean, Jeter's in the Jeter makes. Like, are you serious? I was telling everybody who'd listen that I was going to marry Derek Jeter. He's too old for you. He's too old for you. Hannah, his wife, is a year younger than me. So, joke's on you all. I mean, joke's on me. But I'm just saying.
So sorry you had to settle.
I love you. Anyway, we had other good news around the league.
Yes, very good news. And Angel Hernandez.
MLB watched our podcast and they were like, you know what? You're right. He is awful. He's a good person, but he's just awful at his job. So they encouraged him to.
I've heard that there was rumors that they paid him to retire. Do you think I would not be surprised.
I mean, they do that in the real world anyway. Like they suggest that you retire.
And I think a part of it too was because there's some union thing that would make it actually easier, potentially for MLB to get rid of umpires. So they got him to settle for a retirement now or something like that. There's something with like a new union agreement between the Players Association, the umpires, and the league. That's what I've heard. I don't know again if that's true or not, or how accurate that statement is. But anyway, regardless of all that, Angel Hernandez retired effective immediately. It's not even like wait till the end of the season.
Yeah.
I loved all the memes that came from it. One of my favorites was, "Hey guys, we've always talked about how bad Angel Hernandez is throughout his career. So here is a thread of all the good calls from Angel Hernandez." And then the very next tweet said, thanks for
following along or something.
Something along with that. Yeah.
The end of thread. There are no good calls. He's notoriously has been bad, and I mean notoriously players have said nobody is worse than Angel Hernandez, but somebody will take his place. It's probably gonna be Laz Diaz.
And it's funny because all the players are basically saying, yeah, he was really bad, but then all the umpires are like, no, we love Angel Hernandez. I don't know if that's the The blind calling the
Yeah.
blind.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Angel Hernandez, like they've said, is probably a great person, but
Very
we've
nice
seen
guy.
time and time again how he's making terrible calls. He doesn't set himself up behind the plate
Yeah.
well enough to see strikes or balls. And you struck
I
Wyatt
saw
Langford
Joe
out
West.
with 3 pitches. Oh, Joe West.
Yeah, I saw Joe West had said something along the lines that he's not as bad as everybody makes him out to be.
Like,
It's
okay,
like,
but
I don't
you're
know
Joe
if Joe
West.
West is the one that, should be
Yeah,
making
that's
that
like
comment.
Laz Diaz saying he's a good umpire. Yeah. No.
Yeah, so it's is it Laz Diaz now, or is it CB Buckner who is
Buckner?
the worst?
Yeah, they probably
They're
fight it
pretty
out.
bad.
They are both pretty bad. I'll throw Wendell Stat up there too, or whatever. Wendell Stat, the one that threw out Boone for the fan. He was. Do you over the weekend there was a bad check call made against Judge? Like it was, or was it against Judge or Soto? No, I think it was Soto because it was down at the third base. I don't remember. Somebody had it was an awful check call for third strike. And then they were like, "That's Wendell Stat." I was like, "That's that guy." Only this.
Well, speaking of umpire calls, there was very interesting because I've never seen this happen before, and like the Doofenshmirtz meme that Cliff had mentioned before in our pre-pod, if I had a nickel every time that this play happened, I'd have 2 nickels. But it's weird that it happened twice, right? That play was an infield fly rule that basically, for anybody who doesn't know what infield fly rules, I'd explain this to LG in some length.
We all had to learn on this one ultimately, so.
Yeah, it's a tough one to still sometimes even remember and understand. So basically, an infield fly rule is basically a really easy pop-up that happens in the infield, to put it simply. Infielders should be able to get it no problem with a runner on first and second. That part is very important.
Yeah, first and second, not just first.
First and second, not just first.
That always trips me up.
And 1 out, 0 1 outs.
Yeah.
Less than 2 outs. And so the reason why it's not just on first base, so the reason the rule, I guess, is there in general is that a player could look at this super easy pop-up and just let it fall, and then they could potentially set up an easy double play because players are supposed to, the runners are supposed to wait.
Runners, yes.
Yeah, until the ball is caught, but if then they don't catch it, then they're forced to run. So that can cause an easy double play. So to avoid that, basically, an infield fly rule is called where the batter is already out. No matter what happens, the player could drop the ball, the player is out. Now, the play is still alive because even if the ball is caught, it wouldn't happen, but a player could
tag up
and go. Or if the ball is not caught and it kicks off the glove and goes, out into the outfield. Now the ball's still live. The player can advance. And that part is also important. Batter's still out, but the runners can advance. That is also important when it comes to this. The reason why it doesn't happen when there's only a person on first is because presumably, unless you have a turtle as the hitter, the hitter should be able to get to first. Stanton. I wasn't going to say it. But,
Sorry. We're all thinking it.
Unless
Rizzo.
Yeah. Unless you had somebody who is completely and utterly way too slow, they should be able to get to first in a time that a pop-up would require a
you're not
throw. So they wouldn't be able to get the double play.
Okay.
Anyway.
I guess that makes sense.
So that's why it doesn't happen.
Okay.
So anyway, now getting to the play that occurred. Basically, there was in 2 different games in 2 very interesting situations, very different, but still.
First one was like a White Sox
awful.
game, right?
Yeah, the first one happened with the White Sox game. They were playing Now I'm blanking. I thought it was against the Dodgers. It was against a good team.
Yeah.
It was against the Braves. It was a team that they shouldn't have been able to beat. They were in the game. It was the 9th inning. There was 1 out, player on first and second, and the player pops the ball up. So they call the infield fly. And in the process, the Actually, no, I think it was the Orioles. Now that I think about it, I think it was Gunnar Henderson who was trying to get around
Okay.
the guy at the runner at second, and as he's trying to come in, he bumps into the fielder who is looking up at the ball. The runner is looking forward, so neither player see each other. And as the fielder's trying to make the play, he bumps into the runner. The runner gets back to second. The fielder makes the play for the out, but the umpire calls an interference call on the runner at second, and so the batter is out already, and now the runner is out at second for interference,
And now the game's over.
and it ends the game.
It was the Cubs.
It was against the Cubs,
Mhm.
but the White Sox were the ones who were.
Am I wrong? What am I seeing? Hang on. You're right. It was the Orioles. I read
Okay.
there is a different article right below it about the Cubs, and I.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha. Okay, but it was
reading
the
is
White
hard,
Sox
apparently.
against the.
Yes, it was the
Orioles?
White Sox against the Orioles. Sorry. Yeah.
As I was recalling the play, I remember I thought it was Gunnar Henderson who was the one who was trying to get around. Anyway, so that play happens, and that was like, oh, that's such a crazy play. Like then, and it just felt like the wrong call. Of course, like the players are like, what am I supposed to do? I was just trying to get back to my bag.
Where am I supposed to go? I did what I could. Yeah.
And so fast forward a week later, in the first inning of the Yankees game against, was this San Diego? No, LA. It was the Angels because it was Neto.
It was the Angels, and he was pitching terrible. It was he couldn't get in. There was no outs, right?
Yeah, there was one out.
Oh, there was.
I thought
bases
that
were
ended the
loaded.
inning.
No, it didn't end the inning. It didn't end the inning.
Okay.
He had no outs, bases loaded. Volpe was on third. Soto was on second. Judge was on first. And
then Stanton was up. He was the one who hit the pop fly
I think that's right.
Infield. I remember it being Stanton.
If it was Stanton, okay. If it was, then there might have been one out. Because isn't Verdugo? They don't do right. They don't do Judge and Stanton back to back. Usually,
unless there was a lefty on the mound.
Okay. Well, I feel like
it doesn't matter.
I remember bases were loaded, so maybe there was one out, maybe there was not. But so
I was pretty sure that it was two outs because
inning.
I remember, or one out because I remember the players leaving
the
field during the time.
Okay, you're probably right. Then that makes more sense than that it would have been Verdugo got the out and then Stanton
was up.
Stanton was up for the infield fly.
So a very similar situation, except this time the ball, the one with the Gunnar Henderson one was more shallow infield in front of Gunnar Henderson. So as the runner's trying to go back this way, Gunner's coming this way towards the ball. In this situation, the ball is pretty much right over second base, and so Stanton sees the runner or the fielder, Neto, on top of second base, and he's trying to figure out how am I going to get my Soto, how am I going to get my foot in there to not interfere.
Mm-hmm.
So he tries to kind of like slide his foot in, and as he's sliding his foot in, Neto goes from kind of the right side of second base,
in front of the bag,
and in front of the bag, and he goes back 4 feet trying to get the ball now going backward, and dives backwards, bumps into Soto. Neto falls over,
doesn't catch
the ball. They call Soto out on second. I think Boone got ejected for arguing the call. And so it sparks this big debate of these two plays kind of happen. Very odd. No one's really ever seen it. And now they've happened in back-to-back weeks. And so are they bad calls? So, of course, I asked our resident umpire, our stepmom, Betty. She's umpired. We talked about her before when it came to, I think we were talking about Angel Hernandez last time we got her input on umpiring. He when he was having the bad calls with
Heel
Wyatt Langford,
with Wyatt
I think.
Langford, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, Betty has umpired throughout many different leagues from all the way from little league all the way up to I think college games as well throughout her career umping. So I asked her, I was like, what? I showed her both plays, asked her, like, isn't that kind of crazy? Isn't that a bad call? She said, no, fortunately, that's the right call. A fielder has the right to get the ball. She said the Neto one was a little up to interpretation if he was the one who caused obstruction of the runner or if Soto is causing the interference. But even though that, yes, he is supposed to get back to the bag, the fielder has the right to make the play. And so it was the right call, but may not be a good rule.
Yeah, it's like, because my problem with this is then why wouldn't everyone do this? Why wouldn't everyone then just bump into the batter on? Because if the infield fly rule is being called, there are runners on. Obviously, that's why why it's being called, and there's 2 runners on at least, right? Like, has to be runners on.
At least 2 runners on.
So you're in a jam. And what better way to end the inning than to boop, oopsie, I ran into you, and now you're out.
Yeah.
Like, because the Yankees one with, there is no doubt in my mind that man did not know he was off. He, like, who was it?
Neto.
I don't know. That Neto he didn't know, there's no way at some point while he's tracking that ball that he doesn't see it start going behind him, that he had to react at the last second to go back and catch that ball. There's no doubt in my mind he waited until the last second to move because he knew Soto was behind him. He knew his pitcher was struggling. He knew the bases were loaded, and let's get out of this right now. We don't have to face whoever's after Stanton now. Right. We can just get out of this and be done. So I hear what she's saying. I mean, the rule is black and white. Batter interfered, the runner interfered with the fielder, and that's it. But it just, I think the rule needs to change to allow this.
She did say too that like rules change when people start taking advantage of certain parts of the rule when certain things aren't clear. She said the umpires made the right call for
how it is on the books.
She understands how the books interpret that rule. But like we talked about your rule that you would add in with the intentional walks. My rule would be with this particular play would be that if a player unintentionally, and you have to use your judgment, and we know umpires are
really bad at that sometimes.
Using your judgment, if a batter, like in the Soto case, like in whoever was on second for the White Sox, where they unintentionally interfere with the batter trying to get back to their base, that it's an out still with the infield fly of the batter, but the runner, it is now a dead ball situation if the batter accidentally interferes with that
and I think,
fielder. I think that way there's just the one out. The players have to stay no matter what happens. The ball can get bounced all the way out to center field somehow, but the players have to stay where they're at.
If Neto is in the middle between third and second base trying to catch this ball and he's tracking it, and Soto pushes him on his way back to the bag that he can
intentionally like just shoves him out of the way.
Absolutely. Runner's interference. What are you doing? But the fact that there's no
and when you watch it, Soto is trying to avoid Neto as best as he can when Neto is literally standing on top of the base.
Yeah, and so that's my problem with this. He's clearly interfering with Soto's ability to get back to the base, which we do have rules about getting to second. They're not allowed to obscure the runner to get to second base. The catcher's not allowed to obscure home to get, you have to allow that path. So, and it might be different because he's got to play on the ball and he's here, but the fact that he had to dive backwards 4 feet and he's a Major League Baseball player, I just don't believe that he didn't see that it was, unless a big gust of wind came at the right time and he's the only one that felt it, a little Tasmanian devil, like right in the middle of the
Maybe.
that yeah, and
Stan does hit the ball hard, so maybe it had a little bit of spin.
maybe it was up there, forever, and
just
he had no
spun
idea where it
backward.
was coming back down, and maybe I'm completely out of line, and it was totally
Either way, I think
inconvenient
the
mistake.
rule needs to change on that one.
Yeah, yeah, definitely crazy that you've had you. I don't even think I've never seen this happen before.
I've never seen it, so
and it's
happened
twice and within a week.
In a week is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
To wrap up, the Mets are pretty bad.
To wrap up, what the fuck, man?
There's just a lot going on. I mean, they had a really bad May.
Yeah, they started this season by telling the Yankees that they were going to get Juan Soto, and how dare we be, we're going to be delusional because they've got Daddy Steve Cohen and all his money that they're going to get Soto. But I'm not thinking that Soto's looking at the Yankees, the way the Yankees are running and the way the Mets are running, and seeing anything favorable. Now, I'm not saying that Soto's guaranteed a Yankee after this year. Anything can happen, but I don't think the odds are better for the Mets than they are for the Yankees.
Yeah, not at this point. But yeah, the Mets had a really bad May,
for example,
and they continue things. It's not just bad play, everything clubhouse stuff. You have Harrison Bader, who is asked, "Who is your best?
Who's your Mount Rushmore?
Who's your Mount Rushmore of of New York baseball players?" And he names. The first two I can kind of get. He names Derek Jeter. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And remember, Harrison Bader played for the Yankees now
he's
with
the
Mets. He is a Met currently.
He's currently a Met.
and so his first one is his first one is Derek Jeter, which again, okay, he grew up a Yankee fan. That tracks, I guess. Then he says Aaron Judge, which is okay, currently the best player in all of baseball right now, hitting wise at least.
Yeah.
So okay, sure. And then he just says, and Anthony Volpe.
I think he was
crazy.
Who are your favorite? I think he thought the question was who are
your favorite New York players?
New York players, or or who do you want to
hang out with? And then not only
with?
does he not name a Met player, but he doesn't even name four, which is what traditionally a Mount Rushmore is.
Yeah.
But he couldn't throw in
he knows
David Wright in there, or
he knows. Not even a 86 Met from when the last one
they won the championship.
Nah.
Something. Nope. So that happened. That was just kind of a more funny thing. You have Francisco Lindor, who was asked, so what do you miss the most about your time playing in Cleveland? And he said winning.
Oh shit!
So
I didn't know he said that.
Yeah. So that was one. I was just like, damn.
All right, tell us how you really feel.
All right. He did win. Was he on the World Series winning team? No, they didn't win the World Series that year. They lost to the Cubs. That was the year the Indians went. Was the year they lost to the Cubs. But anyway, so he said that, and then the big one happened where they had a DFA a player named Jorge Lopez. Apparently, he was having already a bad week, bad day, something with his kid not being pretty ill,
emergency surgery, or being really sick, or something along
those lines.
Yeah, his kid wasn't doing well,
and he had a bad outing, and he's had an argument with a umpire about the strike zone. And he gets tossed from the game. And as he's walking off, he says something first to something a little bit disrespectful towards the manager.
Oh, you're right.
But I don't remember it was said something necessarily disrespectful, just like an act, not doing something like untucking his shirt or something where he didn't do the traditional wait for the ball, wait for the guy, the manager to come up, hand the ball. I see. Walk with your head down.
Yeah.
But then he takes his glove off, tosses it over the netting into the stands, and walks.
People are making such a big. I mean, you shouldn't be throwing your glove into the stands. Totally get that. And it was a bit disrespectful move. Totally get that too. But people, I feel blew that piece of it so out
Yeah.
of proportion.
I mean, we have
The
seen
fan that
players
caught that is
throw
like super happy.
super excited. Yeah, he posted all about it on
I
Instagram.
bet. I mean,
So
it didn't hurt
I mean, we've
anybody.
seen guys like Harper throw their helmet at
Yeah,
a
like
player,
people throw,
and
you shouldn't be throwing stuff into the stands. I get that, and so don't do that. But like that wasn't the bad part of all.
I don't think it was as
really.
big of a deal. Then he had his post-game interview where it sounded, this guy does not speak English as his first language. He does seem to speak it
well,
decently well.
Conversationally, you have full conversation.
But again, this is kind of one of those situations where this is why players
want
use
an
interpreter, whether they speak decent English or not.
Yeah,
he says what sounds like he says, I'm just frustrated playing, being on the worst team in the league, is what it kind of like into it just sounds like.
And
he
to
said.
Be fair, what SNY and a bunch of other media reported that he said
was that,
and it spread that is what he said.
Crazy.
I mean, when I
remember seeing it the first time, I was like, damn,
funny.
He said the worst team in the league.
I was like, we all know that, but no.
Yeah. And my first thought was like, man, I get you guys are playing really bad, but like the White Sox still exist.
Well, yeah, and I was like, wow, something must be like the clubhouse must be really bad if like if this is.
And then he that's what we're seeing, what we're hearing. And then he comes out with a statement apologizing for the whole situation, saying there was maybe just a misunderstanding with my English. I was saying that I feel like I'm the worst teammate in the league. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying, reading this, I was like,
buddy.
Good cover up.
You probably meant the world. Worst team in the world.
The worst team in the world, though. Even the worst teammate in the league. This is what he
and I was like, yeah, good cover up. Like, I mean, that's a good way to try to save face.
Yeah.
And then I actually watched it again, and you can hear him say teammate. Like, I mean, it's
the mate like kind of drops off a little
drops,
bit, but like you can hear it, and then it's probably a cadence of the way he speaks or whatever, and it just sucks that I kept seeing that people. Whoever that reporter was did ask him to clarify, and they were saying that he doubled down, but I never actually saw.
I never saw the double
quotes.
Down part.
Yeah, I just saw people saying he doubled down. So I don't know if the reporter didn't ask him to clarify, did you actually say that they're the worst team in the league? Did I hear you right? And like that's kind of icky. And with his knowing that he has these issues going on with his son, and he's clearly he's struggling bad. I mean, these guys are, they work so hard at their craft. I mean, he's beaten himself up enough, I'm sure. And then to add something else like this on top of it, it's a business. Maybe the Mets were going to DFA him anyway. I heard there were like weird, bad things like he ignored other things with coaches, like he was supposed to talk to a coach and he didn't or something. And so it sounds like there was a lot going on, and there's probably more of the story than we know, but DFAing him does seem a bit harsh. I feel like he could have gotten like a suspension,
just a fine or a suspension or something.
You need a week off or whatever. Take your time. Take like
care of your home life,
like a family leave to go. Clear your head and be with your kid. And so that does suck. The Mets are also I think this might have been part of the blown leads. The Mets have blown 7 or 8 games where they've had a lead
bad.
going.
I mean,
into
Edwin
inning.
Diaz has been absolutely terrible. This year. I saw someone say that the Mets one good season and a really cool entrance made the Mets pay this guy like the greatest closer of all time.
Yeah, I mean,
and I was like, we
have what we say things about our fearless
Cashman,
not
signing people the way that but sometimes you
gotta
you gotta acknowledge when they're not entirely wrong.
You gotta be a little cautious sometimes, and just because you got the money doesn't mean you should be throwing it all around. Maybe we should just make smarter decisions. So
I just like an hour and 40 minutes.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
you could cut this.
I'm looking at that.
You can make 2 podcasts out of it if you wanted.
We could actually.
Boom. You're welcome. And
So if you're watching part 2 of this, thank
thanks,
you.
everyone. Now, the only other thing I wanted to end on, I don't want to end on the Mets. Did you you watch it because I made you watch it. The what was it on Paramount?
Bronx Zoo.
The Bronx Zoo for about the 1990 Yankees. My knowledge of
That was
pre
wild.
my knowledge of pre 1995, 1994 Yankees, really pre 1995 Yankees is lacking. I will fully admit.
Well,
If you're
aside from
not
like the real historical stuff, like
well,
your
yeah,
Babe
so if
Ruth,
you're not the like historical teams,
So like, yeah, the early 90s when we were not good.
yes. Now, I always knew we were not good. I always knew that. Did you know how not good we were?
I knew we were really bad. I mean, that's why we got like some of like
famously
the core
bad
players.
Like,
yeah.
Egregiously bad, and not just bad playing, but we had a player who not only was a pedophile and just out with the openly dating a 15-year-old girl.
Well, if it was in Ohio and she was 16,
it'd be totally fine. Legal age of consent. No.
Sorry, that was a Pete Rose joke. If anybody didn't get that, we don't actually
think that at
but
all.
this
No.
player moved in with the girl's family.
No, had the girl's family move in with him in Trump Tower.
Eventually, yes, but
you're right. At first he moves into the. That's right. He moves into the family house, kicks the mom and dad into the daughter's old bedroom, and takes the master bedroom for him and the daughter, the 15-year-old girl. Ick. His name is Mel Hall. He's doing time though in jail. 40 years.
Good.
Thankful to. I don't know what happened. It wasn't specifically for this case. Like this.
It was something that happened in Texas.
Something happened in Texas because they had a Texas DA.
So he was the Wander Franco of the 90s.
Yes, exactly. And except it was this 15-year-old girl was sat with the Yankees girlfriends, sat with like the families. Like this was the
90s were weird.
Yeah, this is like a well-known, and nobody said anything about it. And watching the documentary, the first person to offer her a hand or an out and ask her, "Are you okay?" Because they're talking when they're talking about this, they're people were treating her like royalty, like she was someone special because Mel Hall was dating her, and it was I don't
even know who Mel Hall is.
Exactly, good. He went to her prom. And the prom picture is what ended up in the Yankee yearbook within all the family photos. Yeah, the face you're making is appropriate. Yes. So
this is like dark Yankee history too.
Yeah. Like, so the person who I told you they moved into Trump Tower, he hung out with Trump, and I guess they were friends, him and Mel Hall. But I guess they were over, and she said that he was the first person to say, if something's off here and you don't feel safe, you let me know and I'll get you out. Trump said that to her, the very first person. So I was just floored, first of all, about this.
Do you know how bad of a person you got to be, Mel Hall?
Wait. 1990. Maybe a coincidence, maybe not, but Trump was a Democrat then.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to get into any of that, and maybe a clear sign of switched mind. I don't know. I don't know the motivation behind saying I will help you.
I just would never have guessed.
I will help you.
Mel Hall was falling behind on his rent payments too.
So that's probably also part of it. I don't know. But it did floor me when she said it was him. I was like, nobody else in her life stepped in until
that's pretty sad.
Yes.
Like whether it's, no matter what your feelings are with him, it's,
that's sad.
That's the only person that not a single wife or girlfriend on the Yankees were like, hey,
this seems wrong. This is icky.
Yeah. I get it's the 90s, but that's not that long ago.
No, it's not that long ago. It's not an excuse. So, yeah, that's gross. And to happy ending, he is, like I said, serving 40 years in jail.
Good. That's disgusting.
I think her testimony, she was invited to give testimony, and the jury said that her testimony was why they gave him such a big sentence. So I don't know what the other case was that got him to the courthouse, but yeah, her testimony was why they kicked probably to like the maximum or something. I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah, so he's in jail. The other thing that he did that's least egregious but still egregious was he brought 2 literal cougars, not, as they say in the documentary, not 53-year-old women, 2 literal cougars into the clubhouse, and one of them at least like pissed in the clubhouse somewhere, and like, yeah, like he just didn't care about rules at all. That's just one piece. So this whole, like, this is also where
What is this
small
on?
piece.
Paramount, right? It's on Paramount
Plus.
Paramount Plus. Yeah. And what was the other? Oh, you heard about George Steinbrenner getting suspended from the league, and then Stick Michaels is the one that takes over, and he's the one that pulls in Posada and Andy and Jeter and all of them. This all stems from Dave Winfield. He was trying to get dirt on Dave Winfield so he didn't have to pay certain parts of his contract.
I do remember that.
And he hired this like gambling addict or something that fed him false information. Like,
I don't remember where I saw this, but I remember
probably in The Captain, because I was like doing
cleaning. It was in that,
and I was watching The Captain over again, and it's in the first episode, and they go over it real quick. But they go into a little more deeper, and Spiro, or whatever his name is Spira, is in it, and he's like, I
did more for the Yankees than anyone who ever picked up a bat.
And so that's part of the documentary, like, trailer, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Who are you? You've done more for the Yankees. So he credits himself with the Yankee dynasty because he's the reason that George Steinbrenner ultimately got suspended because of his dealings with this guy, so that he'd get dirt on Winfield. He gets suspended from baseball. Stick Michaels comes in and creates the Yankee dynasty, even though, I mean, George does come back in 94. Like, he's reinstated. But
you can't fault him for his logic, I guess. But
it's a false sense of ego there with your logic. But anyway, if you have Paramount Plus or a way to watch Bronx Zoo about the 1990 Yankees, do it.
Check it out.
Yeah, because
that sounds crazy.
It's only 3 episodes, and it's just
disgusting man. That guy.
Yeah, disgusting man. Yes. He's not the only part. That's just the most absolute.
That's the craziest
part of the whole thing. So I guess I gave away the craziness, but it's still
so much.
It was I thought it was well put together, and yeah, it was interesting, very interesting. It was, you hear pieces of it, but I never knew all the details about it.
Yeah, I didn't even know any of that. That's definitely a major things that
reason we don't hear about it, right?
Swept under the rug.
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
And probably the big reason why they are very PR controlled, and they have all these like rules, I'm sure comes from this team, this 1990
situation.
You were saying, it's like, I knew that they were happy they got Jeter, but he's a freaking godsend.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was like, oh my gosh, no wonder that they held these guys on pedestals. I mean, between the dynasty winning championships helps tremendously, but they were just stand-up person.
But also like people. Being like Boy Scouts.
Exactly. But especially Jeter. I mean, Boy Scout on the field anyway. But anyway.
Such a nice boy.
He's a nice boy. Stop going to clubs. Anyway. Yeah.
Well, before we reach 2 hours, I hope everybody has enjoyed our part 1 and part 2 of our Welcome Back podcast, if that's what we're doing. If it's one podcast and you listen to us for 2 hours straight,
why are you this crazy?
Thanks even more. So
also, yes, I appreciate you.
we're splitting it.
Yeah, splitting it seems like
I think that's smart. So thank you for listening to parts 1 and 2.
Yeah. We
and
hope it's not another month and a half before we do this again, so follow us and stuff.
So it won't be another 2-hour episode next time because we won't have as much to cover. So anyway, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, X, and threads at damyanks_pod. We do a lot of posts there. Obviously, in the last month we haven't, but they'll be back up as we are back into it for the rest of the season. So follow us there. Follow us on Facebook at damyankspod. And then subscribe either whether you listen to us on Spotify or watch us on YouTube. Hit the subscribe buttons, hit the notification buttons, and thanks again for listening to us. See ya.
See ya.